All right, what we're going to do this morning, and first off, thanks everyone for coming on in. We're going to read you through the scenario as to what the events were. The prosecutor's going to talk about the charges. I have a little bit more after that, and then we're going to show you the videotape. All right? And we'll be able to talk about some of the videotape. On Friday, January 6th, 2012, at approximately 6:40 p.m., Deputy Jeff Nichols, a 13-year veteran of the Kalamazoo County Sheriff's Office, stopped a 2002 Chevy Silverado that had just run a traffic light at the intersection of Sprinkle and Lake Street. Deputy Nichols and Reserve Officer Deputy Jeremy Conley riding with him, performing their law enforcement duties that evening. The Chevy pickup pulled over on East Michigan Avenue, just east of Sprinkle Road. When Deputy Nichols approached the driver's side of the pickup truck, the driver opened up fire on him. One shot struck Deputy Nichols in the right arm. Deputy Nichols and Reserve Officer Conley, who was standing on the passenger side, returned fire as the pickup truck had sped away. The truck left eastbound on Michigan Avenue towards Comstock. Several shots struck the fleeing vehicle, but none had hit any of the subjects inside the truck. There were 3 occupants in the pickup truck at the time. Deputies believe 2 of them were Christopher Allen Wright, born in 1986, from Portage, and his brother William Billy Wright, born in 1983, of Kalamazoo. An area broadcast was put out to all police agencies, and a search was conducted for the suspects and their vehicle. About 40 minutes later, the suspect vehicle was located on Colette Street in Comstock Township, and that's less than a mile from the scene of the shooting. From there, police were able to gather information that the suspects were transported by an acquaintance to the east side of Kalamazoo, where they came into contact with another acquaintance, that subject being named Jessica Carpenter. She's born in 1985. She lived in the neighborhood on the east side of Kalamazoo. Carpenter transported the Wright brothers in her 2002 Jeep Liberty to several locations in Kalamazoo County over the next few hours, and eventually to a residence in the Haverhill neighborhood of Portage, Michigan. Shortly after midnight, police spotted the suspect vehicle leaving a residence in a neighborhood and attempted to make a traffic stop on the 2002 Jeep Liberty. The Jeep fled the area, going north onto Constitution Boulevard, through West Millam, and onto the property of Portage Northern High School. Once on the property, the vehicle crashed through a fence and onto a soccer field, at which point Carpenter jumped out of the vehicle and was immediately apprehended. The vehicle exited the field by crashing through another fence and into the backyards on the 5700 block of Monticello. The driver lost control of the Jeep at that time and crashed into a house, whereupon the Wright brothers had fled on foot. The neighborhood was basically locked down at that point by police officers from the area. The Kalamazoo Regional SWAT team tracked the suspects to a 2-car garage in the 5700 block of Mount Vernon. At that location, a suspect could be heard inside, and after attempting to talk that suspect out of the garage for about 20 minutes, a loud explosion was heard by all on scene. At the same time, the garage was noticed to be on fire, and a Ford Tempo owned by the residents on Mount Vernon had come crashing through the front of the garage. The vehicle fled through backyards and eventually made it onto eastbound I-94 with police in pursuit. The driver of the vehicle, William Wright, proceeded on I-94 to Helmer Road in Calhoun County, where he was met by police officers who had laid spike strips in the roadway to stop his vehicle. After striking the strips, the suspect vehicle proceeded a short distance before crashing into the median fence out by Helmer Road. The driver attempted to flee but was apprehended by the K-9 units of the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety as well as other police officers. Shortly after the apprehension of William Wright, police who were still in the neighborhood on Mount Vernon were able to locate his brother Christopher, who was hiding inside of a pickup truck and taken into custody. On Monday, the 9th of January, the charges had all been sent down to the prosecutor's office for review, and at this time, Jeff Fink, the prosecutor of Kalamazoo County, will address those charges for you.
Good morning. We have issued, as of late yesterday, the following charges. Against William Ray Wright, Jr., date of birth 7/29/83, the following charges. Count 1, assault with intent to murder. That is a term of years up to life if convicted for the shooting of the officer. Second, felony firearm for use of a gun. Third, carrying a concealed weapon in an automobile. Fourth, breaking and entering of a building. That's for breaking into the garage and stealing the car. Fifth charge, arson of real property for setting fire in the garage. Sixth, UDAA, which is the unlawful driving away of an automobile for theft of the vehicle. 7, fleeing the police. Third. 8 and 9 are both resisting and obstructing police officers. Those are the 9 counts that have been filed as of late yesterday against William Ray Wright, Jr. We have also issued charges against Jessica Ann Carpenter, date of birth 5/19/85. The charge against Jessica is accessory after a fact to a felony. Accessory after the fact to a felony. The basis of a charge like that is, number one, a felony was committed by someone else, in this case William Wright, and there were several felonies, that you aided, assisted, harbored, protected, or helped avoid discovery of that person who committed those felonies, and you were aware that the person had committed those felonies. So when you see a charge of accessory after the fact, those are the elements that we in the prosecutor's office look for. So those are the charges we have against those 2 individuals, in addition to, of course, on late Sunday, we had already issued the resisting obstructing against Christopher Wright. So.
Thank you, Jeff. I think it's the rest of my stuff. Deputy Jeff Nichols and Reserve Officer Jeremy Conley are doing fine and have returned to duty. Deputy Nichols was grazed by a bullet along his right arm, and he was treated at Bronson ER and released. Both advised that they do not wish to discuss the incident with the media and have asked not to be contacted. I wish to thank all the law enforcement agencies and all the emergency services involved in this event. Specifically, I'd like to thank the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, the Portage Police Department, the Portage Fire Department, the Michigan State Police, the Michigan DNR units, as well as the Augusta Police Department, Calhoun County, and Battle Creek City. These are all the agencies that I saw myself that night, and if there were other agencies involved, they also had agencies calling us in. And at one point, I took information from the St. Joe County Jail. They contacted me and gave me good information. So again, we had a lot of partners in this event trying to help us get to a conclusion that evening. The officers involved with the apprehension of these suspects showed tremendous restraint and professionalism. I remain forever grateful to the men and women of the law enforcement and emergency community. At this time, we'd like to show you the video, and I know that you also have a video being sent or a copy given to you for your later broadcast.
I will also lay out the copies of the complaints that were filed against them, so you don't have to try to remember everything and write it down, but you'll have copies of the complaints right here for you.
There will be sound here in just a minute. This is the officer attempting to catch up with the suspect vehicle. You can see the tail lights coming up here. See him making his right turn blinker turn on. He's turning on the Michigan Avenue from Sprinkle Road. One of the first things you'll hear is the deputy directing his reserve officer, which I think is an amazing way to teach people. advising him not to slam his door. This happens fast. At that point, it's just the officer explaining to everyone where to go. You'll notice, you won't notice, but when you do review this, you'll see that the officer has another deputy car pull up within another 10 seconds, and he's given directions saying eastbound. It just went that way. You'll notice that the suspect vehicle drove around the other car that had passed at the same time as the shooting. And when that vehicle went around, we later were able to identify that person as a witness. We'll go through this real slow. I just want you to notice how many seconds it takes. It's under 2 seconds here, basically, that we're involved in this shooting, and the truck is already fleeing. Go ahead and go slow, David. This car just gets by. Stop right there, David. Okay. You notice this? This is why we use video, making sure that everybody understands that this officer is the victim of a crime. Go ahead and continue. One of the first things that these two deputies told me that night, I'm on scene within 10 to 15 minutes actually, after this happened, talking with these two gentlemen, and one of the first things they told me is, Sheriff, our training kicked in. And you see that right there. This man right here saved his life that night by making sure that he acted the way we teach them and the way that he's been honed his skill throughout the years of paying attention on every traffic stop. When somebody says it was a routine traffic stop, I caution them because I advise there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. He stopped this person for going through a simple light, having a traffic violation, and he's in the fight for his life. Did you notice the time? How quick that was? I think that's good, David. All right. Lights, please. At this point, I can take some limited questions. Remember, a lot of this that we have been able to share with you is something that we put together that will not cause us a problem later on in court. So I want to make sure that everybody understands there's some things that we will not be able to answer just because it's part of the investigation or part of the court case.
I got a couple of tough ones right off the top. Can you spell the last name of your deputy and your reserve?
Yes, they're on the news releases also, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they're part of the information, but Nichols is Nichols.
News release now, or
Say again.
can we get a copy of the news release now?
This is actually just what I read you. I'm not sure. We'll make sure you have something, though.
In our charges, they should probably list on the shooting Jeff Nichols, so that you'll have his name right on the charge.
The other one I can spell for you also, because that's not going to be on those there, is Jeremy Conley, Conley. Amazing to me, he's been a reserve officer just a year and a half. He has no other law enforcement experience. And what you could notice in the film over here is that when this deputy is shooting at the suspect vehicle, you'll notice on this side of the vehicle, you can see the smoke from the reserve officer also shooting, returning fire upon the truck. That's something that comes with lots of training. And again, the reserve also was able to tell us, thank you for the training.
Additional charges for Christopher?
We just have the one charge of resisting obstructing at this time. Nothing new as of today.
Plan perhaps, or you just don't want to say anything at this
Not
point?
going to make any comment on that right now.
All right, and they had outstanding warrants. At least some of them did. One was a parole absconder. Any comments on that? I mean, that obviously had to have something to do with this.
We can't comment on criminal histories with the media, but clearly you can FOIA the person, and I think if you do, you'll find he had a conviction in 2009 and wasn't out very long.
What was the motive? Can you speak to the motive of why they fired the officer?
Not at this point in time. I think you can probably deduce that when you do your further checking on criminal history.
Did you say there were 3 people in the truck?
Correct.
Yes.
Who was the third person?
That person's not being identified at this point. We're still in our research for that person, making sure that we can talk with them. We believe that they are a passenger in the vehicle, and that was it.
In the truck.
In the truck.
Is it possible we'll see other charges coming out of this case?
Well, the investigation continues, but no charges are imminent right now.
So do you think that Christopher Wright was an active participant in this, or was he just happened to be?
Can you step closer to the microphone, please?
He just happened to be in the truck.
Right now, the only charge we have placed against Christopher Wright, although he was clearly involved in the incident, was the resisting obstructing a police officer. All the other charges of the actual shooting, breaking into the garage, the driving of the vehicle, the fleeing, are against the brother William Wright.
At what time during the night did the actual resisting with Chris Wright take place?
That was after the incident occurred, when he was hiding and not coming out. And
Of the truck, when you guys found him in the truck?
correct, correct.
Do you think, okay, so you haven't charged him with anything else. Was Jessica Carpenter driving the Jeep Liberty?
She had driven the Jeep Liberty earlier, and her charges are because of an allegation that she was aware of the shooting and she assisted him in avoiding detection by the police. So that's the basis of her charges. And that involves many different activities throughout the evening.
When they were driving through Portage Northern and whatever, was she driving? Or was
Half the time she was driving, and part of the time he was driving.
How about when did they lose control in that neighborhood?
He was driving.
The initial vehicle, was that stolen? Was that stolen?
No. No.
Is that how you ID the suspect?
It was a family member's vehicle.
Okay. So you ID the suspects initially through the vehicle?
There were many different pieces of information that were coming together at the same time. So
You say that Jennifer drove them around town for a while. Can you comment on where they went? I'm assuming they're not going to the church called Social.
But you can assume that accurately, but no, we're not going to comment on specifics of where they all drove. But you can see that when you get the police report, obviously.
Anything else found? I mean,
The
is
weapon
dope
has been
involved?
recovered, and there's other items that are being processed.
I thought I read something. I mean, I don't know if that was in the initial release. There were bullets found in the truck. Is that true?
Correct.
Okay. I think that's maybe old news, but okay. Are those casings or actual bullets?
both.
Both.
And this is the weapon you believe that was used to shoot at your deputy?
Yes.
And where was that? Was that in the vehicle? Or where
It was
that?
found in the Jeep.
Was the weapon recovered?
Yes.
The weapon was found in the Jeep.
So they kept that with them after and then went to the
Correct.
church called Social.
Sheriff, I mean, I know there are different law enforcement entities here working, but I mean, essentially, as you're chasing this Jeep, this guy could start shooting, right? I mean,
Correct.
Talk about how officers and deputies have to deal with that kind of chase, knowing that you've got a suspect. I mean, we saw this in Kent County and Ottawa County not too long ago. You have to know that they're going to shoot back at you, right?
We've seen this way too often lately, and it is a disturbing trend. What I'll say to that is that our law enforcement professionals are just that. They are professionals. They understand that every day they come into work, they put on their badge, they put on their gun, that they are out there to protect the citizens, but they also know the dangers involved with protecting the citizens. So it's very important for the citizens to remember that these people understand every night that they're out there to protect them, but it also could be the last night they get to do that. So yes, these officers were very aware of the fact that these suspects still had the firearm, and that at any point we could end up in another firefight.
You said you couldn't talk about criminal history. In general, if a parolee absconds, are law enforcement officials actively searching for them?
It would depend on the crime maybe that they were involved in the first place, or what their activities might be, their most recent activities. We are made aware of the fact that they are an absconder, but to say that we get a list and we actively seek them would not be a correct statement, no.
You have to also remember that every month there's around 20 to 30 parolees coming back to this county every month, new parolees. So it's a significant number of people that are coming back from prison. In Kalamazoo County, we do about 2,000 felony cases a year. Around, probably 15 to 20% go to prison out of that 2,000 cases. And as they serve their time, they're being released. And on any given month, you've got 20, 25 parolees coming back from prison.
So William Wright wouldn't have been, he wasn't actively being sought by police for absconding.
He may have been from the parole office themselves, but to my knowledge, not any police agency at the time.
You know, any prosecutor think, I know that, you know, in the past you've been maybe slightly critical of the, you know, how often sentences and how often people are paroled maybe early. Any comment on that, you know, in terms of when he was let out?
Actually, to set number one is, I think we in Michigan at times use the parole.
I'm going to study. We feel free to sit
Oh, sure.
closer. Thank you.
In Michigan, you have to remember that no one gets early releases because of truth in sentencing. And in Michigan, truth in sentencing is when the judge sets that minimum sentence, everyone that goes to prison will serve that minimum sentence. So if the minimum is 3 years, the person, say 3 to 10, they will serve that 3. Now the question is when between 3 and say 5 or 10 are they going to be released? I will indicate we have had a significant number of our cases, of our criminal cases, serious criminal cases the last few years, committed by parolees. But on the other hand, that doesn't mean that all parolees are, and our statistics through MPRI, Michigan Prisoner Reentry Initiative, are that the majority of parolees coming back to Kalamazoo County are not reoffending within their first 3 years, the majority. But when you're looking at 20 to 30 every month, if a few offend, then you have some potential very serious offenses. And obviously in this particular case, a very, very serious case with an officer shot, person running around driving extremely recklessly, use of a weapon out in the community. You know, there was another car that was hit on I-94 in his attempt to flee, so you've got a very, very serious situation. So,
The explosion in the garage, what was the nature of that? How did that happen?
The suspect had set a fire inside of the garage in his attempt to escape.
You said a fire in an enclosed garage?
Yes.
So he was trying to knock the door off by setting fire?
What he was trying to do, we don't know. What we do know is that he left the garage, through the garage door with a stolen vehicle, and was able to flee the scene because of his actions at that point.
What was it that caused the explosion? I mean, we know he set a fire, but...
Mm-hmm.
that's still under investigation as far as that goes. For our charge, we're just looking at the setting of fire to property. That's all you need for arson. So, any other questions? Thank you much. Again, the charges and everything are right here for you. So.
Yeah.